If you feel like the helicopters in Battlefield 6 are hard to keep from crashing into the ground, hard to be accurate with, or are generally hard to control, or if you just want to ensure that your settings are all in order, then this is the video for you. Today I will dive into all the settings important for optimal helicopter piloting, walk you through all the control inputs within a Portal server, and teach you some fundamental maneuvers that you should know in order to master movement in the Battlefield 6 attack helicopters. I hope you enjoy. Alright guys, let's go ahead and set up our optimal settings for flying helicopters. Let's go to settings, and the first group of settings we're going to look at are our graphics settings. The first setting we're going to look at is vehicle third person field of view. We're going to set this to the maximum so that we can see the most of the battlefield when we're flying in third person, and this is an obvious advantage in pretty much every scenario. We're also going to turn world motion blur down and these three visual effects off, because doing that is going to increase our visibility in general. Next, under the interface and HUD section, we are going to turn off the SOVIS filter. I have no idea why this is on by default, but by default, this setting being on makes it harder to see infantry on the ground below you. This is because the SOVIS filter applies realistic lighting to soldiers, and that makes them blend in with their environment more. So turning this off is really going to help you guys. Alright, now that we're done with graphics, let's go to the mouse and keyboard section, and let's look at the vehicle mouse aim sensitivity. I recommend setting this to the same sensitivity as your infantry mouse aim sensitivity to start. If you need to adjust it from here, like it feels too slow, too fast, whatever, you can adjust it then. But try to find something early and stick to it, okay? This way you're going to learn aiming in the helicopter just faster. It's going to just promote your muscle memory growth faster. Then we're going to go to control settings. And here, we're going to turn off inverted vertical flight and look, and we're also going to turn helicopter control sensitivity all the way up to the maximum. And this is going to increase the responsiveness of the helicopter, which is obviously a very good thing. We're also going to turn off helicopter control assists, because this just messes with your aim. I would not recommend using it. It really doesn't even provide that much of an advantage, so just turn it off. Under aim, we're going to turn on uniform vehicle aiming. We're going to make this ratio 100 and this coefficient 0. And what that is going to do is it's going to remove any multipliers that are in effect when you change the zoom level while you're aiming. And that's going to improve your muscle memory when aiming. Don't touch this setting. It may be tempting to, but for some reason it's completely coupled to this setting here in the previous menu. So just don't touch it. I don't even know why it's in the game, but just leave this alone. And the final thing in this little section is the vehicle weapon zoom. We're going to set it to toggle. It's just better than hold, because often when you're in an aircraft and you zoom in, you're going to hold that zoom for a while, and you don't want to tire out, your fingers by holding the right click down for so long, and also it can affect your aim. So I would recommend toggle. Now we go back to this menu, and we are going to go, finally, to our helicopter pilot keybinds. So, exit vehicle, right? I think this is E by default. You're going to have to change that because we are going to be using E for something else. But don't set it to something like, say, F, okay? Because you may accidentally press F. Set this to a button you won't accidentally press, because you do not want to get ejected from the helicopter on accident. Trust me. For change seat, set this to something you can easily press. You probably aren't going to be using this much unless you're doing solo attack chopper and you want to, seat swap, switch to your gunner seat and mow down some infantry and then switch back. The only thing here is I would caution you to minimize your use of seat swapping in this game. It's not like 2042. In this game, the RPG velocity is really fast, so being still for even, a couple of seconds is extremely dangerous. Also, the helicopter loses altitude faster in this game, so it gives you less time to actually kill enemies while you switch to the gunner seat. Overall, I think you should limit your use of this, especially considering how powerful, the heavy pods are in the pilot seat. Next important setting here is chase camera. This is what switches you between third and first person, and you're going to be using this a lot because those two camera angles have different strengths, right? And it depends on the situation. For me, an easy button to press is my mouse button, but, any button that's easy for you to press will work. And the same is true for your ping button. For me, I put that on my mouse, but any button will work that's quick. And finally, we're getting to where the magic happens, okay? This is the movement and aiming section for throttle up and throttle down. We're going to keep this as W and S, that's just standard. For yaw right and yaw left, we're going to keep our keybinds the same, right, D and A, but we're going to add some mouse binds. But before you do this, you may have to remove your mouse binds from roll. So the way to do this is to click as though you're setting your roll mouse bind and hold escape to clear it, okay? And do that for both of these. Once you've done that, you can finally set your mouse bind for yaw by clicking and moving the mouse to the right, and obviously to the left for yaw left. For pitch, we're going to want to keep our mouse on pitch, but we're also going to want to add some keys. And the reason for that is because especially in this game where pitch is so damn slow, we're often going to want to pitch for a very long time to the maximum extent, and that's just kind of infeasible with your mouse. So having a key here is really helpful. I like to use C, which is my crouch button when I'm playing infantry, as pitch down, and I like to have spacebar, which is my jump button when I'm playing infantry, as pitch up. They're kind of analogous. By using your mouse for these 4 controls here, what this is in effect going to do for you is you're going to be able to aim the helicopter with your mouse primarily, as though you were aiming a rifle. However, since we cleared our mouse binds for roll, we need some way to roll the helicopter. So we're going to set some keys to it. But since we left our keys on yaw, the standard keys, for roll we need some different keys. So why not just use the keys above A and D, which are Q and E? Now, if you have used rifle aim for a while and you are used to rolling with A and D already, it's really ingrained in your memory that rolling is done with A and D, but you want to add yaw to the keyboard because yaw is really powerful in helicopters in Battlefield 6. What I recommend you doing is instead of switching your yaw to A and D and adding roll on Q and E, just set your yaw to Q and E. You already have it in your brain to roll with A and D. Why not just make yaw Q and E? I think it makes a lot of sense. But for everybody else, just ignore that. Use these settings here. I think this is the best way to set it up. Now, these 2 settings, they don't even affect anything when you have helicopter assist off, which we do. So ignore them. But for free look, this is a very important bind, okay? Yet again, you're going to want to set this to something you can easily press. And for me, that is my final mouse button, which is my mouse wheel button, right? My scroll wheel button. And the way this works is when I hold my free look button, which is my scroll wheel button, down, and then move my mouse around, it's going to look all around the helicopter at every angle. In 2042, you may have been used to the rear camera, which is great, but you can mimic this effect by simply going into free look and swiping your mouse until you're looking behind you, right? But now you can also look in every direction, so that's super handy. And honestly, for weapons and equipment, this is all pretty standard stuff. So yeah, there you go. You guys now have the optimal helicopter settings. I hope it helps you. All right, guys, now that we have the optimal settings and keybinds for controlling the helicopter, we got to give them a try and get the hang of them. And let's not do that in a public lobby where we're going to get incinerated instantly by an enemy jet. Instead, let's go and browse some portal servers. Unfortunately, we cannot right now host our own portal servers because literally everyone's hosting and there's no space. But we can take advantage of the filters here to go to specifically a conquest game and set it to the best helicopter map, which is Manhattan Bridge. Let's apply those filters and sort by player count. Then we're going to go down to the bottom and hopefully find a server with no players in it and really low ping. So it looks like I found one here. Why don't we just go ahead and join it? So let's grab this helicopter, and the first thing you're going to want to do is gain altitude, and it's literally as simple as holding the W key. There's no trick to this. You're not going to gain altitude any faster if you do some special, like pitching down and then pitching up like it was in 2042. All you need to do is hold W. And for losing altitude, you can just hold S to lose altitude. Or if you want to do it even faster, you can pitch down with your mouse and hold S to really lose some altitude quickly. You can also, pitch down with C to do that. But make sure, you pitch back up to correct yourself before you crash. You will probably crash a lot into the ground because of how fast you lose altitude. But eventually, you're going to figure out that this is actually a strength of the helicopter. By being able to pitch down so quickly, we can escape to cover really fast by just losing some altitude extremely fast and hiding, right? So next you're going to ask, well, how do I turn, right? Well, the first and natural way to do this is just to move your mouse left and right, and this is going to be yawing the helicopter, right? But sometimes when you want to make big movements, it's actually more efficient to just use your keys, A and D to yaw. And honestly, that is the fastest way to turn. In 2042, it was a little bit more complicated. It was actually faster if you rolled to one side and then pitched, but as you can see, the pitch is abysmally slow in this game. So honestly, it's just faster to yaw. Now, if you roll, pitch, and yaw, it does turn pretty quickly, but honestly, it seems slower than just yawing alone, which is kind of weird. So now that we understand all the basic inputs to the helicopter, let's go ahead and practice some basic maneuvers, which will deepen your understanding of all these inputs and also give you some practical practice with the helicopter. Alright guys, for our first maneuver, we're going to master the use of roll, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to go behind this cover right here, behind this building, and we're going to peek either side of the building using roll. But what you're going to want to do is get to the other side of the building as quick as possible without overshooting like I just did there, and also without, crashing into the building on accident like this or something. So once you get it down, it should look, something like this. Obviously, this is pretty tough to do with just keys, When you have standard controls, you're using your mouse to roll, so it's a little bit of a smoother input process. But that's why this is the first maneuver. It's just to practice using those keys to roll. And even I'm having some trouble with this right now. It might be a little bit easier to do in third person. So it shows it's not an easy maneuver. Once you feel comfortable with that, we can move on to our second maneuver, which is just circling buildings. So let's do that here. We can start it in first person. And what you're going to want to do is basically stay as close to the building as possible, right? Try to keep that turning radius as sharp as possible. You have to use a combination of roll, pitch, and yaw to get this done successfully. And honestly, you can use most of your yawing with your mouse here. But if you want to do some sharp, turns, you can use your keyboard for sure, as you see on screen. Once you feel comfortable circling the building directly around it, you can go above it and start circling it from above. And this is something you're going to be doing when you're flying with a gunner, You're going to be circling targets really slowly, because this is just the best way to give them an angle that's still safe from getting hit from RPGs. For example, you might do this on the B objective a lot if you play Manhattan Bridge, right? You're just going to circle the target very slowly and steadily. And for bonus points, if you want to give your gunner the maximum stability, you're going to use the minimum amount of roll inputs possible. So you're just going to have to figure this out. But if you turn at just the perfect amount using yaw, you actually don't even need to touch your roll, and you'll stay with the same slant the entire time. And once you have that, let's move on to our final maneuver, which is rapidly rotating after taking cover. Okay, so let's say we have to pop flares here. Now we need to take cover. We're going to get behind this building, and we're going to turn as fast as possible. That was a poor example, so let's do it again. This is the whole reason we're here, is to practice, right? Boom, we have to pop flares, get below cover. You can see my input combination. It's kind of complex, but the reason why we are rolling and pitching here is to slow down our momentum. And we're using the S key to quickly lose altitude, and we're relying on our yaw to turn for the most part. Right, so let's say, we're over here and we get locked. We want to hide behind this building really quickly and then turn around. Boom, like that. Okay? Just practice this over and over. I promise it's going to pay off in the long run. And if you want bonus points, why don't we string all of these movements together? So, let's say we start off by circling a target at B and giving our gunner a good angle. Uh-oh, we're getting locked. We have to pop flares. Now we're going to run for cover. And, oh god, we're getting locked. Let's quickly dive below cover and turn around. And then peek either side of this building to kill the stingers that locked us. So that's maneuvers 1, 2, and 3, all comboed together. And yeah, just mess around with this. And then hopefully, after a little while, you feel comfortable maneuvering the helicopter and, not crashing into the ground and staying alive. And maybe you can get into some public lobbies and get some great games. So thanks for watching this video, guys. I hope it helped you. If it did, drop a like and subscribe. It really supports me. You guys are awesome. I hope you have a super fun time on the battlefield. Peace out.